Arsenal versus Crystal Palace with a chance to reach the Carabao Cup semi-finals. Who would go through? Who would shine? Guys, we're going to get into all the information from this matchup. And let's just start off with the hat-trick hero, Gabriel Jesus, back on form, at least in the Carabao Cup. His last goals, if I'm not mistaken, was against Bolton in the same competition. And he seems to like it, to be honest with you, because in the Prem, as we know, 30 plus games without a goal. Hopefully, this will be the start of something new for him and he can go on a run that Arsenal desperately need. We'll take a quick look at the lineups before we get into the games. From an Arsenal perspective, some surprises, definitely Kieran Tierney coming back in, which is a welcome surprise for me. I've always been a big fan of KT. I wanted him at Arsenal for such a long time. When he was at Celtic, he joined, he's had some injury issues, but he's always been a faithful servant to the club, and for that, I love it. He's never overly complained. Obviously, been frustrated if he hasn't been able to start, but he's a dependable left back. We've had injuries elsewhere, and listen, I'll never say no to Tierney in the lineup. Only thing is injuries. I think he came off with a suspected injury as well. Hopefully, it's not too serious. I would love to see him back in an Arsenal shirt for a long while. I'm sorry, he's one of those players that I've got all the time in the world for. Kivior was in the lineup again. Again, we'll talk about him a little bit more. Timber and Party in the back line. This back line was janky, very, very janky. Mikel Arteta is a very, very brave man for trusting this as a back four. And it's not because any of the individual players are bad. It's just, I'm sorry, I've got a hate for Party at right back. Before, I was more forgiving of Arteta doing it. Now, you've pulled your best midfielder out of midfield to play him at right back. Yes, he can do it, but I don't think it produces the best football that Arsenal can. And so, needs must, yes, but not something I would go further with or use on a wild basis, which Mikel Arteta has been doing. Moreno, Jorginho, and Wanyeri in midfield, with Jesus, Sterling, and Trossard up top. Sterling getting a rare start for himself. For Crystal Palace, Mateta up front, Eze and Sarr supporting, Hughes and Lerma in the midfield, Chalobah, Lacroix, and Gehi to make up the back three, and Henderson in goal. So no real surprises from probably a Crystal Palace side. They came out quite strong, looking to advance in this competition as were Arsenal. This is again a competition that if you can do well in, you will do well in. It's not the top of, top four fans list at the start of the season. But again, it's a competition that if you're in and you're doing well in, win it. You get to this point in quarterfinals, semi-finals, might as well go and put forward a solid effort. And for our team like Arsenal, who haven't won in a number of years, I'm sure the players would be happy to have silverware, and it could galvanise them further. So, not disrespecting the cup, but from a fan perspective, I have my eyes on the Premier League and the Champions League, and I would welcome a Carabao Cup or a FA Cup. Definitely, who am I to turn my nose down a cup competition and a victory? However, I think if we're being honest with ourselves as fans, you want to win the biggest of the biggest, especially as of a club of Arsenal stature. Premier League and Champions League will actually move mountains when it comes to this club. At this point, for Mikel Arteta, in the last 5 years, you'll probably take anything, and that would give the fans more confidence in the project. It gives the players more confidence in the project, definitely. But at the end of the season, we've seen, with likes of Man United and other clubs who have won, this particular competition or the FA Cup, it doesn't fix overall cracks. I think competitions like the Champions League and the Premier League really show how well a team, are suited for the biggest of the biggest. Carabao Cups and FA Cups don't necessarily do that because the level of competition that you're facing throughout these rounds is not the same as the upper echelons of the Champions League, or or the consistency that is required for the Premier League as well. So yeah, Carabao Cup again. If Arsenal are in with a chance of winning it, I want them to win it. I want Arsenal to win everything. But again, let's be realistic. We know what the biggest of the biggest competitions are for Arsenal. Going back to the game itself, it started off in a very, very poor fashion. Before I go back into the stats of the game and how the momentum swang, first and foremost, 4 minutes in, a ball over the top, very simple, very routine. Kivior versus Mateta, and Kivior gets absolutely bullied. There's a reason why Kivior, in my opinion, has to be partnered with a Saliba or a Gabriel. He lacks that physicality, and it's surprising. He's 6'2". Someone said online he's Polish. He's the softest Polish man I've ever seen. No, to be real with you, he lacks the physicality. He's a centre back who operates best as a left sided centre back in a back three. That's truly where he will excel to the best of his ability. We've played him at left back. We've played him at left sided centre back in a back four. But really and truly, where he will operate best and where he did operate best in Serie A was in that left-sided centre back in a three, and Arsenal don't really play that. And so when he was caught out, he was caught way out of position, to be honest with you. And Mateta bullied him all the way into the box, held him off literally with one hand, and finished past Raya. And so Kivior, who I've given a lot of props to, I actually like as a player. I recognise his lack of physicality, but when paired with someone who's a little bit more physical, like Gabriel, or someone who's got a high IQ, who knows how to deal with these situations like Saliba, he normally has that protection by himself with a Timber, who hasn't played centre back in a long time and who isn't the most physically demanding as well. You're gonna run into problems, and that's exactly what happened. Kivior looked rattled, shaken through the game for a long while, up until half time, to be honest with you. Wasn't himself. You could see it. And it's something that he needs to work on if he wants to stay in the Premier League. I know he's angling potentially for a move back to the Serie A. Wouldn't blame him. Get more game time, more minutes. But if you want to remain at Arsenal and be part of that centre back squad, you're going to need to up your level of physicality because you've got the ball playing ability. I think defensively, just in terms of normal defensive skills, you're not poor, you're not bad, but physically you need to improve. Aggression needs to improve, and it's up to him if he wants to stay in Arsenal or not. We've needed him. He stepped in. He's done, I would say, okay. But goals like this, goals against Fulham, is where he needs to look at where he can improve, not only at Arsenal but beyond Arsenal as well. Going back to the game, the rest of the first half, Arsenal were huffing and puffing essentially. A lot of the ball, a lot of the domination, as you can see, up until first half, up until half time, but they couldn't make the most of it, and it was looking like Arsenal. And it's kind of when we talk about game states again, Arsenal were put in a situation where they had to come out early and change it. They couldn't stand still and accept being 1-0 down to Palace, because that's essentially starting World War III with Arsenal fans, to be honest with you. And they puffed. Not much was being, I would say, created at a high level. If I'm being honest with you, it looked like the same problems that Arsenal have been faced with at half time. We'll go back to the lineup very briefly. Martin Odegaard came on, and it was a instant impact for him. As soon as he came on, he was able to feed Gabriel Jesus, who finished his first goal with a lovely chip over Dean Henderson. Following on from that, he was able to double up on that with again another brilliant finish. This time, Crystal Palace were a lot more opened up. I believe the second goal, if I'm not mistaken, was actually assisted by Saka after he had come on. So Arsenal had brought on a big gun, Saka and Odegaard, to help cement a victory and take Arsenal further on into this competition. And again, with the final goal, Arsenal win the ball in their own half. Crystal Palace are opened up. Gabriel Jesus is on the last man in a central area where he loves to be, and he was put through. His finishing this time in this game was good enough. And yeah, I mean, Arsenal won out 3-2 winners. Eddie Nketiah with the second goal, he had a towering header on his return to the Emirates. You could see actually how much he actually wanted to do really well there. I could tell that it's not just, okay, I'm gonna, come and just smile. I actually want to do some damage against my former team. And you got to respect that. A good goal for him, needs to build on it. So does Gabriel Jesus. How does he build on it? In my opinion, you score a hat-trick in your last game, you should start your next game. Kai Havertz, sit down, to be honest with you. Gabriel Jesus, we're giving you the reins. We're believing in you once again. Can you perform in the Premier League? Can you get this team to tick? And if you can't, then I have even more serious questions about you. Are you only going to be performing in the lower competitions? Because then we can get you ready for the Carabao Cup semi-final quite easily and not, have you playing in the Premier League. So it's up to you. Like, it's gone nearly the whole of 2024 plus since you turned up. Year and a half, if we're being honest with you. And so the expectations are high. Yes, he's one of our co-captains. He's our number 9. The expectations should be high. This is what he should be doing, and I'm happy for him. Honestly, I'm rooting for him to do well. I'm rooting for Arsenal to do well. Key things to call out from an Arsenal perspective: Sterling had a number of opportunities Again, I don't think was poor, but need more. Again, we're gonna need more for you to force your way in any position in this lineup. Trossard was decent again. Moreno, one of his better performances for Arsenal. Tierney again, really enjoyed his performance coming back into the team from a Crystal Palace side. No one really shone. I think as soon as they got their first goal, they kind of shut up shop, not looking to do too much. And again, you cannot blame them for that. For Arsenal, for Mikel Arteta, good to get the victory, but in the Premier League, they are going to have to show up in their next game, no doubt about it. The semi-final draw will be interesting to see who they got today. Liverpool and Newcastle both won, which was very. It means that we're going to be in for a mouth-watering Carabao Cup semi-final with Arsenal, Newcastle, Liverpool, and potentially Man United or Tottenham going through. If Man United end up winning that game, you're looking at some of the biggest teams in England in this stage of the competition, which isn't always the case. So yeah, massive congratulations to all the teams who have qualified. It will be very interesting to see who each team gets. Arsenal versus Liverpool will be a very feisty one. Arsenal versus Man United, if we have them, because we've got them in the FA Cup as well, will be very, very interesting. Arsenal have beef with all these teams, so it will be a good game nonetheless. Guys, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment. Who is your player of the match? I'm sure it may be Gabriel Jesus, but I want to hear from you. And how can Arsenal push on and get better? What are the things that you liked, you didn't like? I want to hear it all. It's been EDA. I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.